Start February and March presentation with Tom Randall.
Jesse Anderson.
All right, our progress since our last presentation, which seems like a long, long time ago. We got all the equipment we needed. We got all the parts ordered, everything we need to start working. We're getting more parts later on, but as of now, we have everything we need to at least get some prototypes, which are the ones we can. We have all our safety equipment. We have the full painter suits, which is protecting us from just getting on our clothes all day long, because then we'd have to wash them all the time. We got full painter's mask, which got just like the, not cartridges, but just like the plates inside, just to kind of vent it all out. We also have big leather gloves for working with the melting pot, because it does get hot. And some glasses every once in a while we need. Permission. All right, permission to start working. We finally got permission from Mr. Beck and this superintendent. So now we can finally start working. That was about last week, so we got, in about a week, we got at least 10 jigs finished. Jig prototypes, we got about 10 jig prototypes finished. And we got our thank you cards sent. Actually, the masks we had were almost $6 a piece, but a family member, Ms. Beck, actually got them for $20 a piece, and she donated 3 of them to us. So we sent letters to her.
Alright, so for the problems, when we were ordering our first jig mold, it happened that there's 3 different kinds of the mold, but one's a weedless one, and then we got the wrong one. The lead guards don't fit very well in molds. They're pretty, they go inside there, but there's a little, I'm not sure if you guys will be able to see it, but
We'll show it in the last picture later on.
the lead guard's supposed to go all the way through, but the hook doesn't allow it to pass through.
Go to the last picture. All right, the last picture right here, this is the weed guard. This is what keeps it from getting snagged up on anything. So this bends down, but just when the fish bites it, it'll get hooked. But right now, there's a slot for this to fit in, so when you melt it, it stays in. But there is no area for this to go into the actual mold, so we had to drill this out. We'll talk a little more about that later.
Alright, and then for our powder paint, it's pretty thick, and when you heat it up, you gotta heat it up pretty well. If you heat it up, the lead will melt. And then also, if you get too much paint on it, it'll start to drip, and it just makes it not as good. It's crappy.
The shape will bend out,
Yeah,
it won't
bend.
sit flat, it'll just kind of wobble around.
And then we thought 5 pounds of lead would last us quite a bit, but it's actually going quite fast. We only had about 10 jigs made, and we're only down to about a pound and a half of lead.
If that.
And then we were having trouble figuring out how to use the lead, put it in the mold. We thought about drilling it and using the scraps, but that was a big problem. We were getting wood chips in it because we were drilling down into wood too, and then it would waste the lead. And later we just decided to just stick the whole 5-pounder in there, and it would melt, and it worked out really well. And then also we ran out of money. We want to get a couple more molds, more paint, and more skirts, and we've been doing a pop paint drive this Sunday.
Alright, so some of the problems that we solved, we drilled the mold for the base in. Like you said, it would not fit in the mold, so we had to drill it out so it fits. We found a product, so the guard stand, it is a heat-proof plastic tube that you slide over the guard so you can paint it when you heat the jig up. We researched a new method of painting.
For the new method of painting, since this is so thick, it's hard to get a good coat on it. And we found a product made on Do It Jig Mold website that makes it almost like a watery proof because it filters air up through it, and it makes it a lot more less dense, and it gets a better coat on the jig, and it doesn't crimp.
And then we found a new method of melting the lead, like we said, instead of drilling holes in it, we just stick the bolting gate in there and it melts.
All right, future goals, we're going to be doing can drive this Sunday to get, we need another mold, a bunch more hooks, and some more lead, and that'll, and protective, heat-resistant guard. We're going to order new molds, I just said that, and make more work time efficient. This first week, we were just kind of over and over, not knowing what we were doing. We didn't really have kind of a scheduled out thing, we were just kind of going all over the place. So now we're going to try to learn how to get it done and get more jigs done. There's a plan to get at least 100 done. by the end of the year. Start on scents. We're probably gonna start on the scents come spring, test with the crayfish and smell, and just working, we're not really working on that right now, but finish at least 100 jigs. We wanna get at least 100 of them done to test them by spring break. Maybe if we're going to Florida, we kinda wanna try that out. And then look for an interesting audience. We don't know any right now, but we have friends and family that might wanna show up. Maybe like a store owner that sells us jigs or something, or maybe people that do the same thing as us. All right, yeah, like here's the actual jig mold. This is the exact one we have. Here, you can't hardly see. Ooh. Right here, there's a little top, which is where the jig mold goes into, or where the pin goes into, and that's what, there's a hole here, and that pin sits in there, which leaves just enough room to put the weed guard in there. But right now, this was too small, so we had to drill that out, and then we had to cut the pins off there. So this one works fine, and then go to the next slide. And this is where the weed guard sits in, but there was no room for that to sit in. So the most of them just came out like this without the spring, so you can still use these for other baits, but we're gonna test something like that with the springs. And that's it.